Once that's all done, you feel good about it because, I knew Joe, I knew he's a good man, I knew he's a good baseball person, and I understood the decisions. The Yankees handled it right with me. I felt like they treated me right, so that was all good. And, and they even asked me to come back. They wanted me to come back in the capacity. And I didn't feel like at that time it was the right thing to do. I felt like if it was me and Joe on the same staff, it would always have been tricky here in New York. And I felt like it was a good opportunity for me to kind of go shine, again, because you get caught in one organization and they're the only ones that know you, and nobody really knows you. And it was good for me to be able to get to LA, see a new league, be involved with different people around baseball that get to see what you offer. And it's really, I think, it's helped me get the job. I don't think I would have got the managing job in the National League team or even been looked at if I wouldn't have went to LA and experienced that game with the double switching and all. It's a different game completely. And so it was the right thing for me. So it was tough at first, but when you walk away with doing it right, I felt like the Yankees treated me right. I felt like I didn't walk away mad. I wasn't mad. I understood.
I was mad.
I appreciate that. But so in the end, it's okay. I always feel like this is home. When I come home, it's funny because when I come to New York, I feel like I'm home. When I fly into my hometown of Indiana, I feel like I'm home. It's a different home. And I'm getting the same feel when I fly into LA. There's nothing wrong with going to the beach out in Manhattan Beach. It feels pretty good when you fly home, So, all three for me is becoming home for me.
Let me hear, you brought up something with the Yankees handling it properly and Joe, and it wouldn't have been right because Joe, anytime Joe did something wrong or they were on a losing streak, they'd ask you. But I don't know if you ever discussed it with Joe, but both of you, did you think to yourself at the time, Donnie, when you were both up for the job, if I don't get this, I can't stay? Did you know then I'd have to either be the manager or I have to go?
I didn't think about that. Kind of like when I'm going for something, you're just going for it, right? My energy was going for that job. I wanted that job. When I didn't get it, I don't know if you read what happened, but right after that, my wife filed for divorce and all that. So it really ended up being a blessing for me. Because if I would have gotten that job, it would have been a mess. And the Lord treats you and God treats you. Stuff happens to you in your life for a reason. That was one thing that happened to me, and I thought, thank God I did not get that job because it would have been a mess. And I've been able to clean that up. Met a great woman and. Things are good, and my career has kind of taken off again.
All right. Questions?
Yeah, here we go. Question is for Brian, I'd like to hear too. If you had a chance to play a Game 7 tonight, you played with some great players, probably the best ever, who would you pick to be on your team? One guy.
Well, that's easy for me, Messier. You're not going to talk much about him. Just say his name and everything's the same.
Me in Game 7, probably the one guy you would like in your lineup. Kind of if it was in their prime, I'd take like Guidry because I know the guy on the mound. He's on his game. It's like it doesn't matter who's hitting. So, Guidry.
I got a question for both of you. Who is doesn't necessarily have to mean he was the best player, but the toughest competitor each one of you played against? Who do you view as the toughest competitor? Brian, I'll go with you first and let Don answer.
Well, I guess that's always a hard one because, it's certainly in hockey as a physical sport. I wasn't the biggest guy, so you matched up. I was outmatched a lot of times with different players, but I would say if you looked at a guy that I played against for a lot of years and wasn't really matched up because he was a defenseman, but Scott Stevens, over in New Jersey for all those years, he was tough as nails. And he was so competitive early in his career that we could get him off his game a little bit by sending guys after him, and he could go a little screwy sometimes. Get him off the ice for a little bit. But once he got that under control, he'd still lay people out, and you couldn't get him off the ice. And he was a warrior.
He was kind of like both of you guys, very soft-spoken, but as you say, once he got that under control, when he hit the ice, something else happens because he just crushed. He could turn the game around just with a hit.
Absolutely.
Toughest guy in baseball, toughness, you don't really kind of relate. I didn't watch a ton of hockey when I grew up, so when I watch hockey, it's like these guys, nothing keeps them from coming back into a game. So I don't even want to put the baseball guys with the hockey guys at all. But guys that I love playing with, I felt like I knew was playing against or with.
Again.
Well, the one guy I did not want to ever see up there, if the game was on the line, is Brett. George Brett was one of those guys, you could get him out early in the game, and he'd roll over a lefty or whatever, and then all of a sudden it's in the 7th or 8th, and the game's on the line, it's like, oh God, George. So I'd say George. Toughest pitcher for me, you'd probably be surprised, a guy like Mark Langston was the toughest on me. It was just personal because it's just the angles he give me and the looks he give me. He just gives you so many, give me so much to deal with at the plate, and he was halfway wild, so he's not a guy that you're comfortable with because even if you got ahead in the count, you didn't really feel like he was going to throw a strike, and he was just a different matchup. Randy Johnson at the end was probably, kind of unhittable at the end. When I faced him at kind of his prime toward the end of my career, he was 99 or 100, and it was 6'11", and it's here, and it was like there was absolutely no time to hit. There was no time. And when he started getting the breaking ball over, it was kind of over. Left-handed, it really was. I faced a lot of guys. He was the one guy, I felt like if he got the breaking ball over, I really didn't. The only place I could really try to hit it was like down the third baseline, and that's really not something you want to try to do with Randy Johnson throwing 100, trying to wait long enough to hit a ball over there, and you're like, so he was just ridiculous at the end. But
Matt?
I have a question for Donnie and for Brian, so I'll make it quick. Donnie, just to reflect, I know it was a little bit bittersweet, but that over deck shot when he died, I think it'll get chilled for him. Just to reflect on that. And then Brian, the Canada Cup series was up there for the Stanley Cup, and just to reflect that, I think you got drafted by the Yankees at one point. And just talk about
No, I tell everybody that, but no, I was going to say.
I heard he broke some strikeout records, right?
After we won the Cup, my fastball went from 90 to 98. I hadn't played in like 10 years. So the faster, the better we did.
I'll go quick with that so Brian can get into actually the good stuff. That was an unbelievable moment for me. That series was unbelievable for me because I kind of knew it was the end of my career, and we didn't get in the playoffs. Obviously there was no wild card in those days, so you had to win your division, and that division there was probably 7, I don't know how many teams were in it, but Detroit, different teams, Baltimore. So we don't win it, but that series was cool because we got in, and the guy I'm facing that night is Andy Bennis. He's from my hometown. It was kind of weird. But so I kind of took that as like, this guy's my hometown. This is more than the playoffs. When I go home, I got to talk to this. I got to talk this stuff. So that was big for me to get him.
Yeah, they changed the Canada Cup, actually the World Cup. That was the first year of it, '96, and we had a group of American players that were all reaching their prime or in their prime and had kind of grown up together.
That's going in the world.
And so we felt very confident going into the tournament, and we gained confidence throughout. We played Canada in a few exhibition games and had done well. Been a few fights, and we finally had like big guys that were good players. So we went into the finals best of 3 against Canada and lost the first game in Philly in overtime, and now we got to go to Canada to Montreal and win 2 games. And we won that first one. Went into that second one, and Mike Richter is unbelievable. Stopped like 21 shots in the second period. We were still behind in the third. Tied it up, with like 5 minutes to go, and scored a couple more after that. And it was a special time. We continue to go on as a group together and play in some Olympics together. But that was, it's as big. Not quite as 1980, but in USA Hockey, we get all the professionals together, and it was a big victory for the U.S., and to be a part of that was a big deal.
Matt?
back left corner over here.
All right.
Any questions for Brian? Why not playoff here then?
Used to itch the heck out of me, you know. So, and Mets had had enough of the playoff here by the time he was, at one point Mets was in the final 7 of his first 15 years in the league, 14 years in the league, and so by the time he was in New York, he's like, "That doesn't matter, because we got to win it on the ice. Doesn't matter what you do." I was like, "Thank goodness I'm not growing that beard. It drives me crazy." So we just, and then everyone on the team, we only had a few guys that went with it, so it was not a big deal.
Hey, Don, hey, Mike Miller from BrownScouting.com. I'd like to ask a question about the Simpsons, so my friends would tell me. I'll ask you a serious question. You see yourself in 5, 10, 15 years back in New York, which you call home, coaching the Yankees?
Well, for me, I'm going to leave everything open because, you know, again, I love it here. But right now, I look at things like, you know, I'm with the Dodgers at that point, and I'm glad I'm in another league, so I don't have to worry about the Yankee fans and all that. So it's nice to be at least going against the Mets. But for me, you know, you never say never. You hope the doors are open, you know. But the situation, I really want to establish myself. You know, put the best team we can put on the field out there. Create a, you know, kind of add on to that the tradition of the Dodgers and that organization, and really try to establish myself. I really want to, you know, obviously I want to do a great job. You know, I want to get some players playing the game, and you know, I don't look into the future. Really, now, today, what I got to do today, tomorrow, just prepare. Really.
What can the fans expect? What can you expect out of your Dodgers this year in terms of, you know, what goals are? I mean, we know everybody wants to win a World Series, but...
Well, that's it right there. I mean, every decision that you know, I talked with Ned after the season, you know, I told him, I said, I feel like every decision we make is about winning the World Series. And I think that's what it's all about, right? It's what everybody wants to see. It's what players want to see. It's what players want to do. It's what the fans want to see. It's what the organization wants. So to me, every decision we make is about winning the World Series. Now, once that's said and that's done, and this is where you're trying to go, then it becomes part of the, I mean, there's a process that it takes to get there. You know, everybody wants to get there. Everybody would like to get there, but are you willing to do what it takes to get there? And that's the story. For me, it's the process. And I'm sure Brian's the same way. Everybody wants to win. A lot of guys say they want to win. Are they willing to pay the price this guy paid to win? Are they willing to concentrate when they get to spring training? Are they willing to be in shape when they get to spring training? When it's cold and they're facing lincecum or whoever they're facing, are they willing to not make excuses? Are we willing to do that? You know, so I'm worried about the process that what we're going to have to do every day to get there. And it's not a trick how you get there. It's playing the best baseball. It's being ready to play. It's being tougher than the other guy, better shape than the other guy, being willing to do what he won't do. So I'm worried about the process after we've said this is what we're after. And then it's like, okay, we got to pay the price.
Matt?
Over here to the right, near the back.
Okay.
Question for Ron. You're one of the most respected players in baseball. Even with the Red Sox fans, they have nothing bad to say about you. I'm just wondering what your experience with those fans are.
Really, I love playing against the Red Sox, to be honest with you. I like the rivalry. I think the players actually enjoy those kind of series because even though it's hyped up or whatever, and the fans really get into it, I think when you go into Boston, it's crazy. There's nothing better than going into a place and they're all over it as a player. I mean, they're just kind of like trying to get under your skin, and you're able to just go, you know, yeah, look at you, fuck you. We kind of take that attitude, you know, and it's fun, and I think guys that like to play aren't afraid of the field. The field don't change, the rink doesn't change. Yeah, well, maybe it does in hockey over there, right? Some rinks are small.
Used to, but now we're pretty much uniform.
So, I mean,
Let me ask both of you this question, just taking it a step further, and you know when you go into enemy territory, because